Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Therapist Invitation. I'm Mark Mayfield with my friend
Trever Sharon.
and today we're taking some components of my book, The Path Out of Loneliness. If you've not picked up one, I would encourage you to go to Amazon. It's interesting to say that Amazon's the place to go now, but they really control the market on books and rankings and all that kind of crazy stuff. So go there, buy it, share it with a friend, do a book club. You can check out my website, drmayfield.com, and sign up, and you can get a free book club guide to do the book with. But we're talking about what I call the antithesis of loneliness. I'm not giving away the book, but we're just talking a little bit about this idea that we find our purpose, we find our meaning in this idea of identity, purpose, and hope. And so, I think there's debate maybe what the continuum is. Is it identity first and then purpose, then hope? Or is it hope, then identity, then purpose? Is it, I think it's identity, purpose, and then hope, but we can talk through that.
And for the next, for this episode and the next three, we're going to choose to dive specifically into each of those three words and what they mean, particularly in today's day and age. And with I don't know, would it be appropriate to say just the state of relationship in our world today?
It's so bad. It's so bad.
So what sort of groundwork do we need to cover before we dive into these more specifically?
Yeah, and I think this episode will probably be a lot shorter. It's just an introduction to the next three, so maybe you can listen to all of them at once versus, each individually, because I think they're going to definitely play off each other. Might be some repeat, but not a whole lot. I think really it's coming back to, I think, the human condition. I think it's coming back to, this idea, you and I both like Viktor Frankl. If you've not read Man's Search for Meaning, pick that up. I listen to or read it once a year. But it's this idea of who am I, whose am I, what is the end all be all of life? I think, existentially, if we get into those conversations and we don't have the framework to wrestle well with them, it can get overwhelming and it can get kind of scary. And so, I think so. As far as the groundwork goes, why are we asking these questions? And I know that you have some insight into that. Like, why are we talking about identity, purpose, and hope versus other things?
Yeah. Well, and I think, the first place that my mind goes is sort of the foundation of Mayfield Counseling Centers. Our tagline has always been clarity, hope, purpose, with the idea that if we are able to provide clarity to the individuals who come in here to see themselves rightly, to see their situations rightly, to see what's going on, to have clarity about what's going on. And that naturally offers hope. And then we're also able to offer hope that either it doesn't have to stay that way always, it doesn't have to be this way, that there's room for growth and for change and for better days and all that. And just providing that hope, which allows us to access a space of purpose where we know that better days are here or ahead, and we also know what we want to do with them. We want to know what the whole drive behind the the effort we're expending is. And so I think some of that is present here of just a framework for being able to unlock, I hate that phrase, but unlock some more vibrancy and life and wholeness to our experience, not just in vocation or in whatever we're doing, but in who we're being and who we're being with.
It's as you're talking, the phrase that you see on the back of trucks or motorhomes, this idea that not all who wander are lost.
Which is originally from Aragorn.
It is.
Or about Aragorn, I think, actually.
Yep.
Spoken by Gandalf, if I'm right.
I think so. And I've always liked to want to go up to that and go ... but some are, right? And I think it's interesting, that phrase, not all who wander are lost, we could break that down and go, that's true. But why? Well, it's because they have purpose. 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 Well, it's because they have pur they have a direction, right? It might be random to the person looking out from the inside out or from the outside in, but it's not. But then, then there are people that are wandering and they are lost. And why? Well, it goes back to this idea of identity, purpose, and hope of we don't have a foundation. So I think the question is, groundwork wise, do you think that this conversation, so these three components, as we break them down more in depth, are they based out of relationship?
Feels like a trick question, Mark. Feels a little too absolute.
I love it.
Yes, and right.
Sure.
Like, I think especially given some of the way that we've set this up, talking about your book, talking about the world and how it is right now, that maybe it's valuable for us to base it on relationships for right now. I think there's truth that can be taken beyond that. But there's a way to frame it where is anything we're doing actually outside of relationship?
We try. But is it really? Yeah. That's, I think, a good question.
Well, I would argue too, like, there's a lot of ways to even turn the wanderer quote around. Like, he's not lost because he knows who he is, or he's not lost because the story hasn't forgotten him. All those things.
Right.
We can even say, like, a hermit is absolutely in relationship with the rest of the world. It's just estranged.
Or it's not conventional.
Yeah.
Or it's,
I think that, and a lot of this is based out of my own faith. I think that relationship is inescapable for us as human beings because it was part of the way that we've been designed. Like, we just can't run away from it. Everything we do is caught up in relationship. And some of that too, to be fair, is also, I approach things in counseling from a very Gestalt perspective, which is a lot of parts work, which, there are many different parts of us that make up the whole of us.
Right.
And all of those parts are in relationship.
Right. Yeah. And I think too, a lot of the foundation of figuring out these things come from a healthy attachment. And so I think a lot of times we get confused, we get scared, we get misinformed if we don't have a secure attachment. And let's be honest, many of us have disrupted attachments just because of the world we live in. Now, we might have, secure attachments now, or we might have, a somewhat secure attachment model growing up, but our parents do the best they could with what they had. We're doing the best we can with what we have as parents. And then, how do we adjust? But I think a lot of that comes, I think a lot of what we're seeing in our culture is the misappropriation of relationship and the lack of foundation, which is why I'm so passionate about this conversation, because I don't think we should have these concepts be secretive and kept only to counselors and therapists and mental health professionals. I think we need to have these conversations and these topics talked about in the open, and then we provide tools and the ability for anyone to utilize it.
Because I think this is off topic, but at the end of the day, I cannot give out enough information or enough tools or enough guidance to eliminate the field of counseling.
No.
Like, it's that, because that's not what it's about.
Right.
Like, so I think I like what you're saying of, this doesn't have to be kept behind the paywall, if we want to look at it really cynically. There are elements of our life that, yes, there's research backing it, and yes, there's people working really diligently to learn more and to help people understand that more and all of that. And also, it's a part of our existence as human beings, and I think there's some responsibility too of inviting others into the conversation. And a lot of your book talks about that. It's not just the path out of your loneliness.
And there's a chapter in that, but it's
about, how do we do this together? Right? Because we have to in order to combat loneliness.
Well, and I think that goes back to what we talked about last episode of what shape are you and what insert are you trying to fit into. It's because if we've not got that figured out, it can be a very lonely producing process. But we have to figure that out first, I think, in some ways, our own selves first, so that we can help others. Right. And so the conversation over the next couple of weeks is going to be around, identity, purpose, and hope. And I'm going to be asking questions. We're going to be talking about it for you individually, and then for those in your life that you are supporting or walking alongside. What are some good questions to ask? What are some good reflections to look at? How do you guide and direct somebody that is in that kind of existential crisis of who am I, where am I going, what does this all mean, what does this all matter, type stuff. And so I think it's going to be it's a yes and for the relationship piece.
And Mark doesn't know about this, but if you are interested in being more than just a listener of the conversation, please go to our Facebook page. We are creating, just based out of what Facebook is pushing, a group. And our plan is to have a live broadcast of our recordings before they're published. And so these conversations are going to be part of that.
Nice.
So we want to welcome you into that group. There will be information on our Facebook page for that. And then we will do a short kind of Q&A kind of conversational piece after the recording to further invite you into the process, kind of in alignment with what we're talking about. So go to the Mayfield Counseling Facebook page and reach out to us. Let us know that you're interested in that, and we'll get you connected.
Love it.